Hi, everyone. Today we'll talk about chapter 15. So let me quickly pull up the slide and we can go over that chapter. Okay, looks good. All right, so chapter 15 talks about product use testing. Product use testing is testing an end user's experience with a new product under normal conditions. And so the two main types of product use testing that you may or may not be familiar with are alpha testing and beta testing. Alpha testing is use testing done in-house, which means that a company is using employees to test out a new product, whereas beta testing is where it's done with customers at their homes or at another location. And it's used to test out to see if there's any sorts of associated with the product in question. Come back to that if we have time. So what are we doing in this stage, especially from a marketing perspective? The idea here is that the companies are thinking that they've got the right product at this point. So they're hoping, sorry about that. They're hoping that they don't need to make any major changes at any point, and it's really just a matter of double checking to make sure that it's the right product and it's going to sell once it's on the market. The other things that you really need to think about, things like advertising and packaging, the things that sort of your final decisions before you put a product on, you send it out to Walmart and you start trying to sell it, you have to make sure that you've got your packaging and advertising and all those things sort of figured out. So why wouldn't you do product use testing? And actually, there's an example in the case of a company that didn't do it quite as much as maybe they should have. But why wouldn't you? What's some ideas of maybe why you wouldn't? Well, let's say you've already spent a bunch of money on the product. You say that, we've seen some research to say that these are the types of products that are selling on the market. So we don't really need to test it because we already know our competitors have a similar product in the market. And we really need to get it out there so that we don't fall behind. It also might show a lack of faith in the product if you're saying, well, we like it, but we still need to make sure that customers really like it before we start trying to sell it. Now, what about why would you do it? So I'll give an example of this. Gillette, the best known for razors and now part of Procter & Gamble, when they were testing out the Dry Idea deodorant, they did both alpha testing and beta testing. So that means they let employees take the deodorant home, and they let customers try it with the beta testing. What they found is they got some surprises that customers wanted dry roll-on. They had certain fragrances they liked. And again, one of the things I mentioned earlier, when you're doing in previous stage, you're doing concept testing, a fragrance is not something you can concept test. You can only test that out once you have a finished product. So you really have to do product testing for something that has a fragrance. And in this case, they had the wrong fragrance, essentially. So they had to go back to the drawing board to make sure that they got the right one. Some other things to think about is that customer needs are complex. You want to try to make sure that it's not just a direct copy of competitors or that competitors can copy it. And there's also issues that if it's poor quality, you could really run into some issues where sort of unforeseen horror stories. And so the old Polaroid cameras, where you take a picture and spits out the picture and you wait till it shows up. When they started doing this, they found that kids could open up the film very easily. And what it means is people would try to take pictures, but kids could just open up, they press a button, and the film would pop out, and it's all ruined. And so that was something that they really needed to do product use testing to ensure that it was, safe from kids, essentially. Gamma testing is another step. So it's sort of a third type of product use testing. This is where you're doing a thorough use and evaluation, and it really goes beyond just a survey. But what you're trying to do is it's usually over some sort of time frame where you're saying, all right, let's make sure that customers really like this. So let me give you an example of this. If you're doing testing out cars, all right, so in a beta test for cars, you could have customers just drive the car at the dealership and they could say whether they like it or not. But in a gamma test, what you'd actually do is you'd give customers the car and say, take it home for a week, try it out in different terrains, and let us know what you think. So that's a lot more thorough. Yeah, you still might be doing survey results, but you're giving a lot more time and probably spending more money in order to do a gamma test. Some other dimensions of testing that are important: who's the user group? We sort of already talked about that. If it's customers, employees. How are you contacting employees? Are you doing, or testers? Are you doing email or personal? Are you testing it at a store or some sort of third location? Identity disclosure. Do you tell customers what the brand is? It's usually best to not tell them the brand, if at all possible. So that way it's not biasing them. Right? If you're telling customers you're testing out a Nike product, they might have preconceived notions of Nike that you need to sort of hide from them. Degree of control over use, degree of explanation. So in other words, do you really explain the product fully? Do you let customers, again, it's the control, it's the difference between driving a car at a dealership versus giving the car to customers and saying, take that home and tell us what you think. Is it a single use, a multiple use, and then testing combinations. And so testing combinations can come in three different types. Technically, I suppose you could do more, but it would get a bit cumbersome. Monodic, paired, and triangular. In other words, are you testing the product alone? Are you testing it directly next to a competitor, like the Pepsi and Coke famous taste tests? Or are you doing three or more different products where you're trying to get an idea of, would this product stand out in a store? Like if you're doing toothpaste, very straightforward product. Is there a way to make your toothpaste stand out from Crest and Colgate? How do you record these responses? So you can do like or dislike. These are actually called semantic differential scales. Don't worry too much about that. Just call them like or dislike type scales. You can use the happy face, sad face type approach. You can use the Likert scales, which are agree, disagree type statements. All things that we've used in the past. Of course, the difference now is that you have a physical product that you're testing with. And some other ones that are sort of interesting, sort of multiple choice type ones. The descriptive diagnostic one is kind of interesting. This would be where you essentially ask customers, on like a scale of 0 to 100, how do you feel about this product? So it gives them a lot of variation in their answers, but the extra variation may or may not be helpful. All right, so those are the key things I really wanted to cover in chapter 15. Again, apologies, we couldn't do this a few days ago, but I'm glad we could at least do this, and you can refer back to this video as you get ready for the exam. Okay, thank you.